Thank you. It's such an honor to speak this evening to celebrate Dr. Moss's 90th birthday and Edwina Moss's 90th birthday and their 58 years together. My honor to be. Both Mosses were children of Jim Crow, Georgia. Both were young activists. Mrs. Moss is a teenage president of her NACP in Vallejo, California, and her work with SCLC in Atlanta and so much more. Dr. Moss with his work in Selma and preaching in his hometown in segregated LaGrange and so much more. But I want to talk for a moment about something else. When I first met Dr. Moss in the 1980s, he had invited me to Olivet to impress upon me a number of things about public service, about civil rights, about the community, about his work and my work. He told me that in both our professions, pastoring and public service, the importance of listening. You simply could not do your job well, Dr. Moss told me, as a pastor or as a public servant without listening intently, with compassion, and with, yes, humility. He made me better in my job. Edwina and Otis showed the world an uncommon humility, something perhaps rare in their professions and almost non-existent in my profession. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor in philosophy, said that humility is the foundation of all virtue. And that's how the Mosses have lived their lives. Perhaps the most memorable evening for Connie and me in my 18 years in the United States Senate was November 2nd, 2008. Let me set the stage. 2 days before the November election, 80,000 Clevelanders were about to welcome the young senator from Illinois. Bruce Springsteen was on the stage warming up the crowd before Senator Obama arrived from a similar but slightly smaller rally in Columbus. What a time of hope. Connie and I were backstage to welcome the arrival of my Senate colleague from Illinois. With us and backstage were Lou and Jay Stokes and Edwina and Otis Moss. On the cusp of electing the nation's first black president, I couldn't help but think that their thoughts surely went elsewhere. To Oathwaite homes and public housing, to fire hoses and sit-ins, to large and small humiliations they were subjected to assassinations and winning voting rights, to segregation north, south, and north, to the highs and lows growing up in segregated Georgia, to friends lost to racism. The challenges faced in Lincoln Heights, in Laughlin and Cincinnati, and Mrs. Moss, the ugly racism you saw in St. Augustine. With the painful memories that all four of them experienced, Jay and Lou, and Dr. Moss and Mrs. Moss. With us, they talked about those experiences. They talked little about those experiences. Instead, they talked of hope. Connie and I had the good sense, she's smarter than I am, I don't say that, I say that really. Connie and I had the good sense to listen, to be blunt, to shut up and listen, to absorb the wisdom of 4 lives lived well, of 4 public servants, Congressman Stokes, Mrs. Stokes, Dr. Moss, Mrs. Moss, who saw our country's faults, who rallied all of us to fix them, and who fought for justice for all. In this time today, in our country, in this dark time in our country, we need, and so many of you came up to me backstage coming into the church and talked about the dark times now. We need more than ever the Moss's wisdom and the cumulative wisdom of all of you in this congregation, all of you in this beautiful sanctuary. Reverend Moss, Mrs. Moss, I look at you and I know why none of us is giving up. Thank you.